The E3 leaks don't want to stop, and this time we got a Kirby leak. It's usually very rare that a Kirby game gets leaked, and it would be also the first time a Kirby reveal gets leaked via an image. So did we meet a unicorn leak, or is it just a horse with a fake horn? When we first looked at the leak, we already noticed something was very off. And we were not the only one, since Infinity Alex also noticed in our Discord server how unprofessional the logo looked. But why? Let's take a closer look. It begins from the logo concept to the execution. Shading doesn't make sense. Our very own Nerbion somewhat tried to reproduce the logo, but with the correct shading. As you can see, the dark shading doesn't really add up, and the 3D effect has a very weird impression, especially when you look at the Y. Also in general, Kirby's logo has two outlines. And this logo is in the following order: yellow font, blue outline, white outline. However, the second outline usually doesn't cross over with the actual font, like here. If the designer would have designed the logo correctly, then he would have noticed that the white outline is always separated with the blue outline. There are some exceptions to the rules, however, and sometimes the second outline does cross over to the actual font, but those lines are kept very thin. But as you can see here, the colors are intentionally chosen somewhat with similar colors to make the outlines look like one. They just simply do not contrast each other too much. And with the Planet Robobot logo having a similar color scheme like the leaked Star Knight, we can see how HAL actually handles the yellow, blue, and white color scheme, and notice that like with all their previous and recent logos, the white outlines never meet the yellow font. Also, something to note that's very odd, the white outline for the R suddenly stops as soon as it meets the B. The designer also made a huge mistake with this 3D perspective. According to the logo, the B is behind the I, but in front of the Y. But the 3D effect implies that the B is behind the Y. Usually the font acts as one unit, and therefore the 3D effect would be behind the white outline. But the designer made a mistake and put the 3D effect on the I before the K, which means that each letter acts as their own element. The 3D effect doesn't add up, and I'm 100% certain that the HAL logo designer wouldn't have made this mistake. Next up is the font the leak uses for the year and copyright, and here we can see the most inconsistencies. Star Knight has a completely different font like any of the other released Kirby 3DS titles. As you can see, only the 2016 from the Planet Robobot title screen is different, but everything else matches perfectly, and it's very unlikely to assume that HAL just changed the font of their own copyright just because. And speaking of the font for No Internet Connection is also completely different from the font HAL uses for their Kirby titles. As you can see, it is a completely different font even in the latest title, and changing the font for the whole game is possible, but very unlikely to waste resources on such a trivial change. Also, as you can see, Nerbion tried to connect the latest Kirby title, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, to the internet and intentionally provoke a no connection message via a workaround. However, and this is what the designer might have forgotten, 3DS games usually don't have a no internet connection message in game, only maybe a connection loss message during online play. Instead of a game message, you actually get a system message. Maybe we forgot the game that actually contain an in-game no internet connection detected message. But as far as we know, Nintendo games usually have an error screen, and the game then sends you back to the title screen. But now let's talk about resolution, and this is where the leak also makes a mistake. The two screens we got were in the exact same resolution as the actual 3DS screen, meaning this is the actual quality the title screen is supposed to have. And we already hear your JPEG compression argument, but that even Miiverse, which is famous for bad JPEG compression, doesn't screw up the quality that badly like in the leaked screenshots above. So a bad JPEG compression doesn't really make sense, especially when the logo itself actually has a much better resolution than the demo logo. And the copyright is also in a lower resolution. When different graphics don't share the same resolution, something's definitely not right. And while we're at it, someone actually uploaded a video of the title screen. And even with video proof, the inconsistencies just won't stop. First, it recycles the title theme from Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Yes, Kirby games do sometimes recycle title themes, but not for new games in the recent mainline series. And even if they decide to recycle the Return to Dreamland theme, it's very noticeable how much unchanged the title theme actually is. HAL is not known for cheaping out on new arranged title music. Also, something very, very ironic. The leaked title screen footage is not 100% identical to the screenshots. To be fair, the footage is in potato quality, so we have to keep that in mind, but the differences are still interesting. Did you get the differences? The footage has less sparkles effect than the actual screenshots, and many star effects are also missing. Also, I want to give attention to the description. According to the uploader, this was found in a NeoGAF thread, but strangely, there is no link to the post. As we searched for it, we had no results. Either we were very unlucky with research, or someone tried to label it as NeoGAF proof. And since we noticed the number above the title screen, we became curious in what they could mean, or if it even had meaning to begin with. We asked Nikki, aka NWPlayer123, who's a well-known personality in the Nintendo hacking community. She told us that the number is too high to be an internal ID or title ID, so she came to the conclusion that if those numbers are real, it can only be related to the dev kit, but she never saw an ID like that. The only way this is real is if HAL Laboratory was very, very lazy in their logo design efforts and Nintendo didn't bother with their quality control. We didn't even go into detail how uninspired the logo and title itself felt. But since laziness in crafting designs is not always a solid proof against the leak, we intentionally avoided to comment on the overall quality of the design and only focused on the inconsistencies the design had. Like we mentioned before, it's the first time a Kirby game would have got leaked with image proof. But at the same time, it's also the first time Nintendo and HAL announced a Kirby game in the last Direct without a title, artwork, or screenshots. So a E3 reveal at this point is very predictable and expected. One of the current fake leak trends is that the designer generates fake leaks to games everyone is expecting. Also, the new Kirby 3DS game comes out in winter of 2017, so why would HAL and Nintendo leave the demo in such a horrible state? We clearly say it's fake. Anyways, what do you guys think of these images? Are any of you looking forward to the new Kirby fighting game in the works for 3DS? Sound off your thoughts in the comments below. We would like to thank Source Gaming member Nerbion for editing and writing the script. We hope you guys enjoyed the video, and this is Epic Martin signing off.